The $1,000,000 question, do I buy permanent insurance or do I buy term insurance and invest the difference? Now, one of the things that I did to prep for a series of insurance videos in late 2025 is that I priced out a term insurance policy and a universal life insurance policy, okay? So I priced out a term insurance policy for someone who's 25, non-smoking, fit, living parents, and the premium range on that policy was somewhere around $250 for an annual renewable term, $425 for a 20-year term. That's what that person would have to pay every year. On the other side of the coin, I priced out a universal life premium, and that would be one with a cash value component. It came out at $1,400 a year. And again, that's a very fit young person. Okay. So let's say that the difference in this person's life, this fit young person, is that if they pay a term policy, they'd write checks for $400 a year, every year for that $500,000 of coverage. If they do the UL, it's $1,400 a year. So let's presume there's a $1,000 differential between the two types of policies. What should they do? Here's my answer. If the insurance is for a temporary need, in other words, I just bought a house and I want to pay the mortgage off if I die, so my spouse doesn't have to make mortgage payments. So that's a temporary need. I just had a baby and I want to make sure if I die while that baby is a kid, that that baby has money to go to college or a trade school or whatever it is I want them to do. Okay? Those are temporary needs. For temporary needs, let's buy temporary coverage. Let's put the $400 a year down. We'll buy our term policy. And then when that kid's out of the house and the mortgage is paid off, let's policy. That's that. On the other hand, if I want a permanent product, something that's there my whole life, something that's there when I'm in my 50s or 60s, that perhaps that cash value could be used for different things down the road, then universal life makes more sense. Mathematically, you're almost always better off buying a term policy and dumping that $1,000 in some side account. All right, mathematically, that's going to work because inherently, insurance policies that guarantee a rate of return, the returns are going to be lower than what you can get in the market. But that said, if it is for something you're going to use 30, 40, 50 years later, the universal life product is almost always going to be superior because the cost of insurance on term gets crazy if you go out and get a policy in your 60s or 70s, right? So I would say this, to answer the question definitively, perm or term, don't look at the math, look at the purpose, all right? Temporary insurance, go with term. So permanent insurance, go with universal life, whole life, something like that, all right? The math is almost always going to skew, buy a term policy, throw everything else in a Roth IRA, get crazy market returns, okay? The math is going to skew on the term side, but we need to look at it philosophically. What is it for? How long am I going to need it? Because I know by the time I get to my 60s and 70s, this could become a rather lucrative policy down the road. And so in that case, you lean a little into perm.